Hello, my spooky friends. This is John, your host, and welcome to another episode of Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest. And again, the great spooky guests continue on the podcast today. I have Erin, Eric, and Lora from Patriot Paranormal. They are paranormal investigators, and if you guys have been listening to the podcast and watching it on YouTube, you know I love paranormal investigators. They have the greatest stories. They're the most fun. And sometimes I wonder if they're putting their life in jeopardy. Like, you guys have good insurance? Like, I'm a little frightened sometimes. I've heard some stories. I just had a paranormal investigator team on from Miami last week. And they told me some stories too that I was like, you guys have kids? Like, do you have your wills filled out? Like,
right.
Anyway, so guys, I love having you guys on here. And thank you so much for doing this. I truly appreciate it. So let's get right to it. Erin, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
When did you start your interest in the paranormal? Like, were you a little kid? Did something happen to you? Like, what started your interest in, paranormal?
Yeah. Thanks, John. Yeah, as a kid, I had, I'm not a psychic, by the way, but I am sensitive. And I kind of just from the get-go had weird stuff happening all the time, more sensations than actual like seeing stuff, and I would say things, and I don't know if it's like premonition or whatever, but I would say things to like my mom or whatever. And she would just, I guess it freaked her out. I don't know, but she just didn't really want to hear it, And I used to say stuff like that to my sisters and just friends or whatever. And they would always, kind of shut me down. And so I learned to just shut up, keep my mouth closed and I didn't talk about it anymore. And I kept it to myself, which can be, it's not fun, because you think there's something wrong with you.
Correct.
And then that kind of builds up over the years. Well, anyways, then I actually was in England and I went to visit this castle.
Oh, nice.
And my son was only like 3 months old at the time. Yeah. And that was my first like real visual audio experience. And I was at the top of this, I guess, turret, those stairs that just are, those now that you talk about death and needing,
no kidding, right?
That's a fact on those steps. And I was up there in the room, and there was like this baby carriage, and of course he was only 3 months old, and I had him in my arms. And all of a sudden I just felt this presence behind me.
Ooh.
And I heard this like, hey, and I kind of turn around and I see this thing, and I was just like, oh my God. And of course I'd never really, apart from sensations, I've never really seen anything. That was my first time ever experiencing actual paranormal. And I mean, I had my son in my arms, and I went down those stairs like
like a cartoon, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I just held on to him, and I'm like, boom, and I got down, and I mean, I don't even know how long, it was seconds. And my friend, she didn't want to go up because she had bad knees. And like I said, they're very steep. And she's like, oh my God, what? You look like you've seen a ghost. I was like, oh, that's not funny. And that was it. Like, I was like, okay, I knew I was right. I knew this stuff existed. And now I, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe. And then that just piqued my interest. And, but it wasn't until, and mind you, without disclosing my age, I'm kind of up there.
No, it's all right. I'm an old guy. Come on, bring it on.
So my son is like 30 now, and he was only 3 months old.
I got you.
Right. And so, all those years I knew, but I just didn't like understand really about the paranormal. And I kept going to places because I wanted to see something again, but I just never really looked into it. And it was only about, I'd say, a year and a half ago, I started watching all these ghost hunting shows, and I was like, this is so cool. Oh my God. But I still had no idea that you could actually go and do investigations. I thought it was only for those people on TV.
Right.
And so then when I started finding out you can do that, I started booking stuff and just going by myself, like just with these groups.
Yep.
And because I was just so, like finally I can, unleash this that's been hidden all these years, And then I went to a psychiatric place actually, and these two picked me up. Well, another group.
Did they just pick you up random off the street? What's
They're
going on in this team?
This
Hey,
is
look at that old lady. Let's get her. Come on in.
Yeah, you
Go.
belong here, but we're gonna take you now.
The back seat. That's weird, Erin. That's weird, I have to say.
And I'll let Eric tell you the story of what happened in that psychiatric museum.
All right.
It was actually, and so anyways, we were with another team, and they're wonderful, by the way, but I decided I wanted to kind of branch out and start doing something else, a little different, a little smaller group. And then that's when, Lora, Eric, and I kind of got together. But anyways, that's kind of our history, our background, and where I got started.
Very nice. Tell me, Erin, that you put on a creepy dress and walked up to your mother and said, "They're here." Come on. You had to say that.
I did try to freak her out with stuff like that.
Just stand in the hallway like The Shining. Hello. Come on.
And so I would feel things.
Yeah.
And I'm not even joking. I would feel things that were going to happen, and I would tell her, and she would just be like, "Stop it!"
Yeah, you're writing red rum on your mom. Stop it!
I was like, we're playing Pac-Man. I'm like, if you eat that strawberry, your Pac-Man's gonna die. Stuff like that. She was just like, "You're not funny.
Stop it, Erin! Stop it!" All right.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I love it. So, Eric, why don't you tell me, same question. What kind of got you interested? Anything happened when you were younger, or, kind of your first experience?
Well, when I was younger, my family was kind of like Erin, where nobody talked about it. It was never brought up, and it was just don't believe in it. You know what I mean? And so I was actually a skeptic for many years until me and Lora, got together and started dating. And she was kind of like Erin also, where she started watching like the ghost shows and the other guys doing investigations. I always kind of made fun of it, and I was like, "This is whack," you know what I mean?
Lora, yes, you did.
Yeah, and then she actually invited one of her cousins over, and he spent the night, and they were getting reacquainted and catching up, and he brought something with him, and it did not like me. So
brought something.
It almost
was something. I'm sorry, Eric. Was there something attached to him?
Yes,
is what you're saying?
Okay. And I don't know who exactly it was. We think maybe it was like his mother, which would have been Laura's aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, but for some reason it did not like me. Maybe because I just ignored the signs that it was trying to give me. But well, I was actually like mixing up a drink in my kitchen counter, and I had a trash can in the corner of my kitchen, and the lid came off and flew at me.
Oh,
and
okay.
Like I said, I was mixing a drink. I was not that intoxicated to where I'm making this story.
Right. Okay.
So,
sure.
So I tried every scenario that I could think of to try to recreate that and get that lid to go that far across the room at me. And I could not explain it. So that kind of opened my eyes. And then I kind of wanted to know more about why did this happen? And, why was the woman attached to him? And, and then I kind of got like addicted to it. It's like, I want more, more action. So it's a good thrill. And, it's something me and Lauren enjoy doing together. And so, back to the psychiatric hospital. Me and Lora were leading groups.
No, wait a minute. You were in the psychiatric hospital as patients.
We were leading paranormal groups.
Okay. You're paranormal.
It was a paranormal event, and that's when Erin was in one of the groups, and we clicked with her right away. We could tell that she's taking it seriously, and she was all about it. And So there's actually an old morgue there with a cooler.
Ooh.
So I was like, oh yeah, I'll get in there. So
really,
she pushed me in there, and I stayed in there for a little bit, took some pictures, and they closed the door kind of.
Yikes!
So it was time for me to go. I was ready to get out. Mm-hmm. So Erin decided she was going to get me out. Well, she dumps me out of it onto the floor. So that's kind of how we met Erin.
Fumbled out.
She dumped me out of the morgue.
Oops.
It's true.
And what's funny is
nice to meet you. Sorry.
We had some paranormal tools set up around it. And it was almost like the spirits there were laughing at us because when I got dumped out, we had a couple cat balls going off.
It was REM pods.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That is awesome.
Sums up me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lora, how about you?
Yeah. So my story is a little different. I grew up in a really small house. My very first paranormal experience, I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm a little kid, 4 or 5 years old. Walk into my parents' bedroom. It's summertime. It's dark. Windows are open on both sides. So all you see is the light of the moon. I'm scared because I know I'm not supposed to be up, and I know I'm not supposed to be in my parents' room that late. And I don't really want to wake them up, but something made me walk in there, and I just stood by the end of the bed. And the way their bed was positioned, I could look out both windows on either side. And I saw a shadow figure, like a very tall shadow figure, walk by the window, like maybe 5 feet from me. And I just stood there paralyzed. And I remember that. And I forgot it for a long time until I started getting into the paranormal again after my dad passed away. And I thought, you know what? I mean, I've always kind of been able to see things. And then like laying in bed as a kid and seeing the shadows dance across the ceiling and knowing that you're not alone. And I mean, that's where I started. But actually like getting into it deeper and wanting to do investigations and wanting to know about the afterlife is after my dad passed away. I wanted to know, what happens. Can I still talk to him? Is he still here with me? So that's where I got my drive from.
That's really cool. See, this is what I love is everyone has a different story, right? And everybody has a different passion and why they want to do it. And it's also really good for everyone to understand is I'm going to do a shout out to one of my guests I've had on. She does she's trying to do right now a business for therapy for people who've had paranormal issues. Let's put it this way. So normally if you're when I, had some issues and I had to go through a therapist and stuff, it had nothing to do with paranormal. But if I did, they would have a hard time, right? Because we all agree here, it's like, yeah, okay, sure, there's a ghost, I get you, whatever, right? But she's trying to open, she has a business, her name is Deborah. I'm doing a shout out to her because I love her. She's awesome. Paranormal Paradigma. And you could go and she'll do sessions with you. So like for instance, Lora, you saw that ghost. Let's say that traumatized you for the rest of your life and you didn't get into paranormal, right? It just every time Halloween would roll around, you would freak out, right? Well, that's not healthy, right? That's not healthy. And you should be able to go somewhere and have somebody deal with that. So anyway.
No, that's really good.
Really fascinating. Yeah, thank you. And I'll do a shout out to her. Anyway, one of the things too is I always love about, I just had a married couple who did the paranormal too. I've always wanted to know a question, Eric and Lora. If you guys ever got into, because let's be honest, when you're married, I've been married 25 years, and let's put it this way, the argument restaurant is open 24/7, right? Arguments can happen at any time, right? That restaurant is open 24/7. 365. You can start, and Erin, I know you're married too, and so we all get it. Have you ever been? But this is the married couple. Have you ever been on an investigation where you were kind of arguing about something, and then maybe get an EVP saying, "Will you guys shut up?" I'm just curious.
It's probably me saying, "Will you guys shut up?" No,
yeah, more than likely, yeah.
Oh, that's Erin. Oh, we recorded Erin. Oh, sorry about that.
She tries to be the mediator.
Oh, okay, I got it. No, nothing like that.
We're just that couple that kind of we play off of each other anyway. We bicker back and forth, and some people think we're fighting, but we're not fighting. That's just how we talk.
We just give each other a hard time. Yeah.
So, I mean, we have picked up EVPs in the past, but I've never tried to relate them to like if we were like having a disagreement about something. But we have picked up an EVP where the group that we were with, you could tell the spirit was annoyed by them because it was, you know, shut up, bitches, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
So, I mean, we have had that.
Well, and then when we were at Ashmore Estates, Erin, do you remember this? When like I put my hand on the small of her back.
Yeah.
And didn't we get something that came across our device that said sexual?
Yeah.
Oh. And then Lora got touched on the boob.
I did.
She did.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And that wasn't you, Erin, or Eric.
It was not me.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
See, remember?
Yeah,
we after.
Yeah. I've gotten called sexy. Yeah. On our device.
Good for you.
We have had some pervy ghosts. There's
This is the first.
Oh, remember when we were at Castle House and old Pedro liked your rear end?
Yes. That's an interesting story if you want me to tell that one.
Yeah.
Go
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I kind of want to hear favorite stories by each of you. So if you want to, you know, Erin, if you want to start, that'd be great.
Okay, well, this is it's one of my favorites because of the way it all came about. So we were at the Haunted Castle House, which is down in Brumley, you know, the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, our friends Steve and Judy own that, and they're amazing people.
We'll give them a shout out.
All right.
Hey, Steve and Judy. So we went down there, and I've been doing the Duolingo, trying to learn Spanish and German for like over a year. And so I always do my lesson before midnight so that I can get my extra bonus coins or whatever for the next day. And so every investigation we do, I say, don't let me forget to do my lesson before midnight. And so, but of course we were getting all kinds of evidence. So none of us thought about it. And then at 11:45 over the, what was it? The Paratech?
Yes.
So, you know, it pops up words or whatever. And, you know, and it might have been even closer to midnight, but anyways, it popped up with the word Spanish. And so we were like, oh, you know, and Lora says, hey, did you do your lesson? I was like, I was like, hey, spirit, you know. And so in the middle of the investigation, I was like, I'm so sorry, y'all, but I have to do my lesson. I can't, you know, lose my streak. So I'm sitting there doing my Spanish lesson, like, ¿cómo se llama? You know. In the middle of this investigation, next thing you know, we start getting words, Spanish words through the device, and then we were getting the name Pedro over and over again.
Yeah,
we didn't have anything like that prior to that.
Yeah,
it was weird, and so I was like, "Whoa, okay, that's weird." And then all of a sudden, it started changing. We went to another room, and I started getting a massive headache. So now this is where, like I said, my sensitivities will come in, and I'll start feeling stuff. And never have I ever laid down on an investigation, but I was, and my head hurt so bad, and I was so drained that I apologized. And I was like, I have to lay down, you guys. I'm so sorry. Like, and I couldn't sit up. Yeah. So I laid on the bed, and I'm like, you know, just laying there trying to do this investigation. And Steve and Judy was investigating with us at that time, and he had an SLS camera. And so me and Lora are laying on the bed because she was laying next to me because my energy was so drained. She was kind of protecting me. And this stick figure starts climbing up and it's like doing stuff. And we're like, ooh, Pedro, hey, calm down there, buddy.
Hey.
So that was just fascinating. You know,
you could actually feel it.
I love that.
We were sitting on the bed with our hands. We'd be like, it's here. And you know, it was confirmed with him filming that it was right there. And then I'd be like, oh, I just moved over here.
It was cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Cold.
That's amazing. Hey, could you do me a favor, Erin? Most of my spooky audience knows about the equipment that paranormal investigators, but could you explain the box again? And Eric and Laura, if you guys are talking about equipment, please explain it, because there's some new listeners I get who have no clue what you guys are talking about. So it helps.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll tell you about the Paratech, and then he can tell you about the SLS. The Paratech is a device that, and I'm going to give a shout out to Appy Droid. He's over in Scotland, but he makes most of our equipment. You know, the Ghost Hunter store, all those places, we kind of always get from those people because they're reliable. If something goes wrong, they sort it out immediately. And it's not that expensive. Appy Droid probably is the most cost effective, so we go with him a lot. And he's just such an amazing person. Anyhow, so he made this device called the Paratech V5.
VM5.
VM5.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's a device that can go into different modes. So like words, so it'll just pop out words, which is supposed to read the energy, the environment, and give you a word. Now, you know, you can go all kinds of ways with saying that. You know, it just generates whatever words in the database. But we've been on multiple investigations where it was so accurate, it was relevant. Just eerie, you know,
Well, it kind of says the word in like a robotic type voice.
Yeah.
Little internal speaker built into it, and it'll say the word. We've actually had voice be manipulated before and sound almost like demonic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. We'll get to that. I think Eric's
I'll tell that story later, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was very scary.
So
but,
is it similar to a spirit box, or are those two different things?
It's more like an Ovulus. Like an Ovulus 5, where it's a word generator.
But for poorer people. Like
well, people on a budget.
That and
Ghostbusters on a budget.
$600 immediately. Yeah.
Well, they're expensive and they're not readily available. I mean, you have to wait for sometimes a couple of years to get one. So
wow, that's amazing.
And I love it because you can change modes on it. So you can do a Ouija mode. You can do what's the other modes, Eric?
Yes, no.
It's got the yes, no mode. It actually has a spirit box mode where you can buy a detached spirit box and plug it into it, and it'll do the sweeps through the channels. It's an all-in-one type device.
Nice.
That's why
he also just came up with a device that you can attach to it, and it's like a little mini TV, and it will do the heat and the cold. Yeah, thermal. Yeah, so really neat for like $120 or something. And
wow, nice.
And mine broke, and so I was like, "Oh my god, Ian!" You know, and he said, "Just send it," and I sent it, and he had it back to me within like 2 weeks. So,
awesome.
And that's over in Scotland. So, so
nice.
He's amazing.
Nice. And Erin, when you felt Pedro, I believe you said his name was correct.
Yeah.
Did you feel evil, or did you feel like he's just trying to get some kind of, you know what I mean? Like what's going on?
He liked me. Yeah.
Like he liked you. Like you felt like you didn't feel evil.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Hey, girl, what's happening?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't feel like he was trying to swallow your soul or anything like
that.
No. Okay.
No.
It was more like giggity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's like,
okay, gotcha, giggity. Hey, buy me dinner first, Pedro. Come on.
And they never had like that before there. Not like that. So I think he just kind of came through.
Yeah.
Something, I'm not sure what, but it was just bizarre. Now there were teachers that had lived through that at that house throughout the years, and of course then when I they're like, hey, do your lesson, you didn't do your Spanish lesson, you know, and it's just very, very odd for it to be exactly that timing right before I was going to lose my streak if I didn't do it. And it was like I said, 10-15 minutes till midnight, you know. It's pretty neat. And then we had no Spanish until that happened.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we're getting the name Pedro numerous times.
Yeah.
Very weird.
That's really interesting. And you mentioned something else I thought was really interesting. I hear every paranormal investigator I interviewed on this podcast has said the same thing. They've gotten headaches. They've gotten sick, like physically sick, like they've had to walk out of the building and, vomit or whatever. Or they'll get in the car and, the other team is concerned about them. And then they pull in the driveway of someone's house and they're like, I'm fine. I'm fine now. And they're like, you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm perfectly fine. What do you think that caught, and anyone you can chime up here, what do you think is just because you're sensitive, or what do you think causes that?
Who wants to take it?
Anybody.
Okay. No, that's fine. So I think that the more sensitivities you have, the more prone you are to spirits. I think they know that, and they try to latch on or get around or take some of that energy.
So you're saying like you're opening yourself up or whatever, and almost inviting it in a way.
Not necessarily inviting. I just think that they know, they can tell that you can feel them. So they're like, oh, I'm going to go around this person. Right. So, and based off what kind of energy they have, it can make you tired. It can make you feel nauseous. It makes you with the headaches. So, and I think we've all had experienced that. So when we say, obviously not every energy is evil and demonic or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the ones that are, ill intended are the ones that will have more ability to make you nauseous or, feel like you're sick or, because they're trying either to get to you because they want to talk to you, or they know that, obviously they're trying to get to you somehow. It could be good or bad, but I think the ones that have the ability to make you feel that way are probably not the best. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. So, Eric, you want to tell me about your story, and then Laura, you can mention your story, one of your favorite investigations. Or
well, we were in the basement at a place called Cheney Mansion in Jerseyville, Illinois.
Where's that?
Jerseyville, Illinois.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful home. It's so gorgeous and just got such a vast history. It's been around pre-Civil War, and they expanded onto it, and it was actually part of the Underground Railroad at one point. It was a safe place for slaves, and they actually would go to the basement of this place. That was like a stop on their Underground Railroad or whatever. But we were in the basement, and it just where do I begin?
Yeah.
So we were setting up equipment, and everything seemed pretty normal. It was maybe 65, 66 degrees in there. It wasn't bad. And then after 20, maybe 25 minutes, all of a sudden the temperature just dropped. I'm talking like noticeably dropped, where everyone in the room could feel it physically. Got cold. And then like in every corner of that basement, we had equipment going off at the same time. It was almost like some kind of portal opened, and we were just being flooded.
Yeah.
And that about that same time, like right in the middle of all this going on, was when we had our paratech that has like a robotic voice.
Yeah.
And at one point it said, "Get out." Just like that. Oh, that's kind of cliche, but we've never heard it talk like that. It had like a deeper voice, almost like mine, almost like it was
weird.
It wasn't robotic, and it wasn't like it normally sounds,
Yeah.
So.
No, I felt like we were in Scooby-Doo, and we all stopped and looked at each other like,
yeah,
what was that? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this went on for a good 15 minutes straight of just
equipment going nonstop,
temperature freezing. We had a laser grid going off. We had a mel meter going off.
The music box.
The music box
started
going off. So the music box is motion activated.
Oh, that's right.
We had it pointing towards a wall. It wasn't pointing towards us. So something obviously had to move in front of that to activate that to go on. And the G2 laser grid, it is it maps.
Yeah, how does that work?
A whole wall. the whole laser grid. It's what's the radius on it? Probably 15 to 30 feet wide. And it's the same kind of thing where if a shadow figure were to pass in front of it, you would be able to
it would interrupt
it, and it interrupt the lines on the grid. It makes it go. And it also has a temperature reading on it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's where we looked at that temperature, and it was 61 degrees. So we visibly seen the temperature drop also.
Yeah.
So it kind of corresponded with the way we were feeling, and it was the wildest thing that's ever happened to me.
Wow. Well, so what do you guys think? Obviously, you guys are probably familiar with this. I have a lot of paranormal investigators tell me the same thing: is energy, whether it's negative or good, never goes away. It will attach itself to something. So if you're in a basement full of misery and pain and suffering, that energy is going to attach itself to maybe someone or something. Mm-hmm. So do you guys feel like it was like somebody telling you, like, get out, like, this is mine, you don't belong here? Or was it get out, like, I'm going to hurt you if you don't leave? You know what I mean? There's a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say more, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's multiple spirits down there, though.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that I've talked about this in the past. I think that they have abilities to sometimes converse with each other. And just like humans, that we're living, we don't always get along. So if they're talking back and forth and they don't like it, if your cousin Bob that you hate shows up, you're going to say something. So it's kind of like, get out of my space. So it could even not be directed at us. It could be at another spirit that's in their area that they didn't want there.
Yeah. So here's my other question around that. Okay. In a situation like that, it's kind of like a situation with sometimes if you're with someone and maybe they had a few too much to drink or something and they're getting out of hand and you're kind of like, hey man, you got to go. You got to get out of here. Let's right. You know what I mean? But I know other paranormal investigators say the best way to handle it is kind of like, okay, we understand you don't want us here. We will leave. Just know we respect you. How do you guys handle that situation? What do you guys do when you kind of, I don't know, that situation's getting a little bit,
too much.
Yeah. Erin, you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. Pretty much exactly like what you say. We're just like, we always, whenever we go to any location, we always try to explain like, hey, we're not here to, harm you, disrespect you. We're just here to communicate. If you would like to communicate, great. And then we explain our devices. We always let them know that we can't always see or hear them. So these devices that we have are a way to be able to communicate. So you're welcome to touch them and interact with us. Whenever, we get into a sketchy situation where it feels like, okay, something's going to go down. This doesn't feel right. I will exactly what you say. Hey, we don't mean any harm or disrespect and we'll leave your space. And then, we bless it and then get out, and then, the times that we didn't, but at the same time, we didn't really realize it was going that way until something occurred, where I got pinched at the jail that time. And we weren't doing anything, we never do anything disrespectful. Honestly, we just don't investigate like that. We don't know. We don't.
That's not our style.
I guess you don't really know though. Like if right. Spirits you feel disrespectful.
Sometimes,
even if we're not trying to be, they might not take it that way though.
Yeah.
Right. They just don't want you there, period. And you can't always, it's not like people, I guess, watch TV and just think that, every second there's something going on. It's not like that.
No.
Sometimes it's just dead quiet. You don't feel a thing. And then all of a sudden something just goes off and you're like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that at the jail. I was just asking questions. I wasn't doing anything rude, disrespectful. I was just saying, so, hey, I guess you could take this question the wrong way because I was like, well, why'd you kill your husband?
Okay, then well, there you go.
I suppose she could get pissed off with that, but
Yeah.
she had done it for the money, and so I was just like, was it worth the money?
And just to be clear, this was at the Marion County Jail.
Yes.
in
Right.
Palmyra, Missouri. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
didn't mean, but
was
there
going
was.
to ask you that because, like, I've done Missouri State Penitentiary,
Mhm.
I've done the Ohio Reformatory, I've done this. I'm going to do the Squirrel Jail. I'm trying to think of the other jail I did, and I've had people, on there who have no paranormal investigators yet. So if you guys ever do that, let me know, and I'll have you back on. You could share your findings. But like all those prisons, no matter what day it was or what time there was always something. You always got something. You got pinched, you got pushed, you got whatever, right? So anyway, go on, Erin. What were you saying?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of misery in those places. I don't really know. I mean, I haven't been to jail myself, but I don't know of any that had any really good times. So, there's
not
a lot of
especially in those older jails too, and because the old 1800 inmates, they went through a lot more than they go through now.
Horrifically abused.
Cat of nine tails, and I mean, just horrible things.
Trust me. Listen to my Missouri State Penitentiary or Ohio State Reformatory, where these people were nearly beat to death by the guards on a daily basis.
Absolutely,
just because they eyed the guard the wrong way, or just said something the wrong, and then these guards would come in and beat the ever living shit out of them.
That's all it took was just something
That's
little.
All it took.
It's just horrible.
Yeah. So, Lora, what do you got? What was one of your favorite investigations?
It's so hard for me to pinpoint a favorite.
I know.
I think back to just, I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite, but I'll tell you the ones that kind of stand out. We were at the 1858 Garnett House, there in Kansas. And, usually it's when you're not paying attention or you're not suspecting, is when they'll get you. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was just walking across the floor, setting a cat ball down, which is just a little tiny toy that cats play with, that it has to
lights up red and blue.
Yep. You have to push it for it to work. I'm walking back across the room and Eric says, look at the ball behind you, because it starts lighting up. And next thing I know, I feel this fold right on my right-hand side, like someone had reached their hand right up next to me and tried to grab my cardigan and pull it back. And I kind of freaked out and said a few choice words there.
Holy effing mess.
A couple F-bombs were dropped.
Oh, yeah,
like,
sure.
Oh, you got me. So that's one that sticks out to me, because it's one thing to go investigating and you in the back of your mind, you think I could be touched or I could be this or that. But when it actually happens, it's a little bit different.
And it was pure raw emotion coming from her. It wasn't no way it was fabricated or made up.
No, you could hear it in my voice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was fear.
But the other one I got touched was over at the Sheraton County Historical Society. They have a museum over there. And that was one of those where I'm just standing there and I'm like, I put my hands out and I said, you can come and touch me if you want to, just like this. And I felt fingers actually come and touch my hand like that. And I was like, oh, okay, all righty then.
Be careful.
Okay.
Be careful what you ask for, because when you get it, I didn't think that was going to happen. I was like, oh, okay, well, I need to go outside now and I need to ground myself, because that was a little much. So, I mean, those are ones that just stick out in my mind.
I have said many times on this podcast, I'm a pretty big guy, but if I ever really do see a ghost, I'm going to scream like a little girl and run the other way. So I'd be a terrible member on your team. You would just see, hey, John, and you'd just see me running. And you'd be like, I guess he's done.
We don't freak out like that, though. We don't run. I don't freak out.
Here
Here
we go.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. There we go.
We don't actually. We really don't. We're actually pretty good about that. But there is a couple occasions where I think we lost our shit.
Yes. So that was my next question. Have you ever been on an investigation where you lost your shit? When has that happened?
It was actually at the Garnett house. We were with the other team that we were with. At that time, we were all members on that team. And we were alone, just me and two other females were alone. And the Garnett house has some interesting history. Very much, the cowboy days. They had Bat Masterson. Yeah. God, I'm trying to think of all the names now.
Sure.
I believe, I'm not sure Wyatt Earp, but those cowboys back in that day.
Yeah.
Wild Bill.
And it was yes.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So is this in Arizona or where is this?
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah, so it's not that far from us, actually.
James supposedly was
So the Wild West, and it was a brothel, as
of
most
course,
of them were back
was.
then. And but I don't, know, and I always say this when I explain about this story, because I don't 100% know the history on what took place at that time, but from my sensitivities, I felt like there was a cowboy there who was pissed off. I mean, he was just a jerk, and he treated women like shit back then. And he, as a spirit, was the same way. There's also what is known as a creeper, and very like just a black mass that is seen up on the ceiling and on the wall.
I'd say it's probably demonic in some way, shape, or form. It's not human per se.
Yeah.
But there's actually been psychic mediums that have came in and like drawn pictures of this thing. And it's not human.
It's nasty. But the other thing is the cowboy, which was human, so there's numerous spirits there. And I could be wrong, but I think that's what, it attacks us, if you like. Not attack, harmful, but, scares the piss out of us. Yeah. And so that one night, and like I said, we don't run, we might scream, a little, but we don't,
I'm
like,
embarrassed.
Oh my God. Like, what the fuck was that? And so that's happened a lot. But as far as running, we don't generally do that. But when you are so freaked out and scared beyond what your brain can comprehend, I ran. So we were sitting there, and I could just feel this presence, and not the one on the right, but the one that was on my right, like she also could feel it too. And I was like, something isn't right. Like, and she's like, I think we need to go. I was like, no, I think we need to go. Like, you could just feel it building. Your atmosphere was changing. It was getting oppressive. And I was actually starting to get scared at that point. Like, holy shit, And so we stood up, and I just was like, oh my God. Like, I could feel it. Like, I was like, if I'm going to get pushed or attacked, this is going to be it, because you could just feel it. And then, and she was like, we got to go. And I'm like, yeah, we got to go. And so we start to turn to leave. And all you heard was this. And I mean, it was so loud.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like that in my life, and it was scary. And man, we fucking bolted.
Yeah.
We were
duh.
And this, those old houses, those steep stairs, and man, and I always say this because I laugh about it, because like I work out, but I don't run. Like, I hate running, and I just
walk fast.
It's not my thing. And if my coach saw me on that day, he would be like, no, you're running. Like, you lie. You can run. Because we went down those steps so damn fast. I mean, and there was like cat balls and rim pods. We didn't hit one machine. We were just like, it was so scary.
Love it.
And so,
love it.
Yeah, I just, like, even today, I'm like, did that really happen? Because it was so freaky. And so the kicker of it, though, is that, I had no idea I had any stuff recording. I didn't bring my video camera with me. We were just up there kind of, messing around and stuff. And I didn't know I had anything. So I was traumatized by this for a little while. And I couldn't bring myself, because it turned out that I actually had my recorder running. But I didn't have it with me. It was downstairs. So, but it took me weeks before I could, because I was like, oh, it was downstairs. We were upstairs. There's no way we're going to, it's going to record that.
Sure. Well,
I finally got the nerve to go through it. And guess what? It was on there. It was that loud. It was totally audible. Wow. And I still to this day play that for people, and they're like, oh my God. And it freaks them out just listening to it. So imagine standing there and having that in your ear.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so that was my most frightening.
Eric, Lora, can you top it?
Well, one time when I was at the Missouri State Pen, there was about an hour that went by that I don't remember. Mm-hmm. And there was a point where one of the couples that we were with, I think we were in Gen Pop, and I think we had, what did we have? We had that tablet.
We had the
Phasma box.
Where's the Gen Pop again, Eric?
Gen Pop, general population.
At the prison.
Okay.
At the prison, yeah. And at one point I was like sitting there looking at this tablet with this Phasma box going, which is kind of like a spirit box.
Okay.
And look up, and Laura looked in my eyes and she said, "That's not Eric."
I didn't say it out loud.
She didn't say it out loud, but she was like, "I think it's time for us to go outside." So she kind of ushered us outside. And then like once we got out there, they were like telling me a story about how I pretended like I was going to grab this dude and like put his head in the sink and drown him. And I don't remember any of this. It was like an hour 20 minutes that went by, and I don't remember it all. So I believe it was form of a possession, maybe.
Wow.
But Laura recognized it. She got me out, and then like I was okay after that. So I got lucky.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's
you have to be very mindful of your team and see anything that's abnormal in their actions and the way they're talking. If it's something that you're not used to, then there's something going on, and you need to get them outside. You need to get them away.
Well, and this was years before we were even part of a paranormal team. It was actually during a public tour that this occurred at, and I think I was just inexperienced,
naive,
and I let my guard down. And it's not that way anymore, I have, of course, a lot of guard up now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. That was my next question. Has a spirit ever attached itself to any one of you or followed you home?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Laura, do you want to tell yours first?
Yeah. Oh, Laura.
Yeah. So, I don't even know where to start with that one. I've had a little boy that has followed me. I'm not sure if he's moved into our new home. We actually built this house, and we moved in Memorial Weekend last year, so we're fairly new here still. And I haven't seen him here.
Thank you.
I haven't seen him.
Not with the little boy.
No. No. I think he stayed at the old house. I'm not really sure, but we do have a spirit here. And I don't know where it comes from. It could be from the land, or it could be, family members or whatever.
Right.
But we've had, like when we left the psychiatric hospital there in St. Joe before, we went 20 miles down the road and crazy stuff was just happening in the car. Like my phone would just turn on and start playing music, and, the radio was doing weird stuff. And I was like, okay,
the windows wouldn't roll down.
Yeah.
And it was just weird.
Right after we left there. So we go through the whole, okay, listen, I know you're with me. You got to go. You can't come with us. So yeah, I mean, we've had attachments like that. Those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. But like what Eric says, every place you go with Laura is haunted. So
I think they're attached to her. I think the little boy is attached to her, and it's probably here. He hasn't made an appearance yet.
I think if you're sensitive that you do, I mean, just like I was saying earlier, they know that you can feel them, sense them, some might, talk to whatever. So they're drawn to you and they want to be around you.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Again, for talking to other paranormal investigators, they say they have gone out like outside the, like one paranormal investigator says, don't come in the house. You know, I want you to stay outside the house and I'm going to sage, we're going to bless you or whatever she was doing. And she said, okay, now you can come in, you know, because she's a medium. And she was like, no, I know you're clean. You can come in. Do you guys do that? Or do you guys just be like, well, what, how do we handle this?
No, I'm like, you guys to go.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever gotten to that
You're
point.
going to pay rent.
You guys to go. No. And mostly just because, you know, my house is my safe haven. And, you know, for years I didn't know what, like, I really thought there was something wrong with me. Like I felt so abnormal and I didn't fit in with anybody, you know, and I was just like, yeah, there's something really wrong with me. And I didn't realize that I was so sensitive and I was taking on board all this going around me, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so like, I hate crowds. I hate shopping centers. I mean, I just don't like things like that. It just is very comfortable. Yeah. And it makes me anxious and nervous. So I tend to stay away from all that stuff. And so when, you know, I'm in my own home, I have, and I've learned to do this, you know, because like I said, I didn't know for the longest time what was, you know, I just thought I was very abnormal. Well, I still am, but at least I know now. Like,
yeah, at least you know
why. You know,
I'm weird.
We pulled you out of a psychiatric hosptal.
It's true.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We're like, come on,
literally.
But I this is my safe haven. You know, this is where I've made so comfortable in my little bubble. And, you know, so like, even when I'm watching the ghost hunter shows, like I'll say before the show even begins, you know, not that I think, oh, they just come through TV or whatever, but just in case, I'm covering all bases, you know, so like you're not welcome to do that or whatever. But so I have had things follow me back, and I've had a friend of mine, actually from the Paranormal Files, he sent me a picture from a location that he did, and you know, stuff like that just happens, and there was something attached to it, and you know, and it's not him, it's just the object itself, you know, and because I've had that happen too, and so my dog's freaking out, and I'm like, oh hell no, like I'm not doing this.
But you had your guard down on that one because you didn't know
totally
get the picture that day.
Yeah, like you wouldn't think anything of it, but then, you know, I'm like, oh, that's so cool, thank you so much, and then I put it up on my mantle, and then next thing you know, my dog's like,
you didn't get to say the protection prayer, and you didn't get to do the things.
Yeah, because
right.
And of course, you know, and he obviously didn't know. I mean, it's just like shit just happens sometimes, you know. And so, but then when my dog's like growling and barking, and just he would not take his eyes off this picture, I was like, oh no.
Go ahead and tell us where the picture come from.
Yeah,
from the Garnett house,
from the Garnett.
Of the Garnett house, yeah. And so they probably were like, oh, he's sending that to her. Oh, we like her, you know, in a sarcastic way.
Right.
I'm going to see Erin again, because I scared the shit out of her before, so let's do it again. And I'm like,
I want to see her run again.
Yeah, not in my own home. So I was like, hell no. So I saged, you know, and I opened the back door, and I'm like, you're leaving. You're not staying here, because you're not staying in my space. This is mine, and I'm reclaiming it. And I did, and then it was fine. Now, the little girl that followed me home, now that was a little different, because she didn't want to go.
Oh, okay.
I know Lora shaking her head. There's a bit of a backstory. I will not go into it because I will not disrespect the people.
We investigated a private residence.
Yeah. So I won't disrespect ever anybody, but let's just say it was uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable place. And by the time
weird the whole time.
By the time I left, I was just like, I'm gonna have to like jump into a vat of sage. I mean, it was just
right.
it was the weirdest.
Yeah, right.
My little like brain was just like I can't do this. Yeah.
It's a gold mine of EVPs.
Yeah.
I know.
We got a lot of EVPs from our digital recorder.
But it was also a gold mine of like my creep factor was done.
Yeah,
like I couldn't.
The weird thing,
like
a lot of the EVPs,
I left early.
A lot of the EVPs was like a little girl. So
yes.
Yeah. Now,
but I got home and then just weird stuff started happening, but nothing scary. But mind you, it's your space, it's your home. So it's just uncomfortable anyways. I don't personally like it. Other people do. I'm like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I had to ask her to go back. I said, can you please go back to wherever you came from? Well, she was like, no, I don't like it there either.
Well,
I stayed, she's like, fuck you, I'm staying with you. I ain't going.
Come on.
So she stayed, and I was just like, and then I realized she feels like I felt. She don't want to go back. So I said, okay, that's fine. I get it, but you can't stay here. So you need to find a happy place for you.
Yeah, right.
And that's where you've got to go.
Yeah.
And so I saged, opened the door and said, go to your happy place, but you can't, you're not welcome to stay here, sweetie.
Right.
And then she did after that. But yeah.
Oh, that's good. So let me ask you this. What if someone, and maybe this has already happened to you, comes to you to ask for your help? Like, hey, Erin, Eric, Lora, I don't know what's going on, but we need your help. Do you guys do that at all? And if you have, how have you handled that?
Lora, you want to, or Erin?
Yeah, no, that's fine. No one's actually contacted us and said they wanted help, like getting rid of it. They wanted more confirmation, knowing that they weren't crazy. Like
they'd had experiences, and they were wanting us to confirm
their experiences. So I think that if someone were to come in and say, can you help me get rid of this? I mean, obviously we'll go through the proper steps of doing that. But I think your first confirmation is knowing that it's there, and trying to figure out what, if it's a good spirit, if it's not so good of a spirit. So, I mean, sometimes if it's, your great Aunt Carol who's hanging around, but not really causing any harm, do you really, does it really, do you need her to go?
Yes.
Right.
So it's one of those things you got to figure out what you're dealing with first. And then obviously if they want Carol to go, then we could take the proper steps of getting the house clean for them.
Yeah.
Just saying.
See, and that's the difference between like me and them, because they have spirits something with them, and they're like they've gotten used to it, and I'm like, no.
Who, us?
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, we also built our house on my grandma and grandpa's land, where their old house was too. So
yeah,
it could be an attachment there. I'm pretty sure my grandpa was with me out there in the shop, because I've had a few things happen out there. Nothing bad, but
we also
just like, hey, you know better than that. Like, warning.
Yeah. Our old house, we lived with spirits for years, so I guess we're just so used to it that it doesn't really like.
Our old house was built in maybe 1904, 1906. So it's seen some stuff. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. I have to say that amazes me, because if that happened here, my wife would make me sell the house and she'd be like, sell it. If we get $50 and I don't know, a candy bar, we're like gone. And it's funny because I've been during COVID, I thought was really interesting, because during COVID, I would hear some stories, because you're home 24/7, right? People who lived in haunted homes, it wouldn't bug you as much. You might hear the cupboard door open or footsteps, whatever, right? But if you're home 24/7, I heard stories where people were like, my favorite story was, really quickly, was this woman, there was a little boy ghost, and he would bounce the ball in the hallway. So you hear boom, 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 boom. And she just got kind of used to it, right? But when she was there 24/7, she was like, will you shut up? She just lost it with the ghost. She admits it. She was like, shut.
Right.
Because you heard boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
You're like, will you? God dang.
Well, our old home, I think, like, if it was just that little boy there, he didn't bother us. Like, you just see a little glimpse of him out of the corner of your eye at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, or you'd see a door creep open or creep shut, but it really wasn't anything malicious.
So here's a trickster, and I have to tell you the story real quick, and then we'll move on to something else.
Do.
So the very last time I went over just to give the house one more walkthrough, it was the last time I was going to be in there. Eric had been over the night before, and he left his flashlight over there because he'd been down in the basement. And he said, when you go over there, grab my flashlight. So I walked in the back door, and I'm fully prepared, knowing that I'm going to have to say my goodbyes to this house that I've called home for over a decade. So I'm a little emotional anyway. But I walk through, and I'm like looking through, and I don't see this flashlight anywhere. I don't see it anywhere.
Well, I told her exactly where I had set it, too.
Yeah. So I'm like, what the heck? And, I walk to the front of the house, and I, start my way back to the house. And then I get to the kitchen, and I'm kind of teared up because I'm saying my goodbyes as I go. And I look over, and there's that damn flashlight right on the counter.
That wasn't there just 5 minutes prior.
Right.
I'm like, okay, all right, you got me one last time.
You got me one last time.
So yeah, he would move things.
Nice.
He'd move them. You'd find stuff in another room, or the lights. Yeah. So he was just a little trickster. So, but yeah, that's what. It doesn't bother us. I mean, I guess that doesn't bother us.
But we also think that maybe instead of the little boy following us to our new home, it attached to Laura's daughter.
Yeah.
And went to her house.
Yeah. She's called me a few times, Mom, come get this boy.
Well, because she had some of the little tricks started happening to her with the door creeping closed.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like,
but Lora actually caught. Oh, sorry. Lora actually caught. Sorry, my eyes are watering. She caught that orb from her camera. Wasn't it your camera that inside it's motion activated?
The blank? Yeah, we caught it on camera.
And so she caught this thing going like that, and then when she blew it up, you could see a little face.
It's a face.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, bugs and whatever. So orbs are kind of iffy, And but this you can see a bug, most of the time. Anyways, this was not that. It was like shiny and flashy and in and out. But I'll let her tell you, she's the one that caught it. But
so we're those people, those dog parents now, that we bought the blinks so we could spy on our dogs during the day when we're not home. And then we were like, well, so we activated it. We made it start at like 2 a.m. and it would shut off at 6. So between 2 and 6, I would get up in the morning and I'd have like 15 notifications. And I'm like, oh God. So every day, I mean, 9 or 10 of them would be the dog getting up and going to get a drink. But there'd be the ones where I'd be like, what is that? What is that? And it would be at night and maybe once a week. Here it comes visiting. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And that one was so different from the rest because it was just like the path that it took. So Eric slowed it down. We blew it up and I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's a face.
Yeah. That's a face. Yeah.
It was so cool. It was so cool.
That's okay.
Yeah. So, you could like see the, and it wasn't scary.
No.
So when she showed it to
that was just like nose and the mouth and a chin, and it was defined.
Wow.
I'd never seen anything like
impressive.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Not like that, but my mom. So just about house residential. My mom, her house was built in 1740.
Whoa.
Yeah. She lives in Virginia, so it's.
Yeah.
Everything out there is like way older. But anyways, it's a beautiful, beautiful plantation home. And but she has some spirits there. She's only heard a couple of things a couple of times. Most everything she's like, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, but she was sitting with her sister, my aunt, who's since passed, and they were just having a conversation, but I can't remember what they were talking about. They were sort of upset, and she heard this lady say, oh, it's okay. And she looked
That's
at,
what I was asking before.
Yeah. And she looked at her. It was crazy. But
that is hilarious.
something when I'm there, and I I tell my mom, it's like, it's not scary, but it does creep me out a little, because I'm just like, I can feel it watching me, but it's not anything malevolent or scary or whatever, And so anyways, I've been trying to convince her to let me investigate. And then she's just like, no, you might wake something up. And I'm like, but there's nothing scary here, Right, she's like, yeah, but I don't want to get touched and whatever. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. I hear so then my dad is like, just do it anyways. It's fine. Like, she will know. Because he wants to know. And I'm just like, you're going to get me in trouble with mom, like, yeah, come on. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah. So then she let my sisters do it when they visited. I was like, Mom, like, what? Hey. Yeah. And so she's like, okay, I'll let you do it next time you come. And I'm like, you're just trying to get me out there. So she's like, yeah, yes, I am. Like, yeah. Yeah. So I get to investigate her 1740 house when I go out there, hopefully in March. And we'll see. Yeah, I definitely would love to hear how that goes and everything. So a couple quick questions before we wrap up here, because you guys are great. I love all your stories. This is some great stories. Absolutely love them. So one of the first things I want to ask you, has anyone ever came to you who's buying a house and they've heard it's haunted, right? And said to you, could you do an investigation to kind of tell me if it's haunted, if it's bad spirits, good spirits, anything like that before?
We were actually looking at a house to buy. And we walked in, and that's probably one of the most haunted places I've ever been in my entire life. But it was just a residential house. And then that's one of the only times in my life that I got physically sick, like physically felt like I was going to vomit, was from that house. And it actually affected Eric as well.
But like an hour later, like after we had left, then I got physically sick. Yeah.
So we've had that happen. But my brother, he had some crazy stuff happen, and he was like, hey, will you come over here and walk through my house and tell me what's going on?
Yeah.
And I walked through the house, and I mean, obviously I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, but you sometimes you can just feel that, sometimes I think when you walk into a location, spirits are like, who the hell's that? Well, what are you doing here?
It was an old pastor's house.
Yeah.
At church.
Yeah. So it had some history, some creepy history at that. And I told him, look, obviously something's in there. Because he had some issues with trying to sleep at night and some noises and bangs waking him up. And I was like, you voices, and this is what you can do.
It had been on fire a couple times. There's just
it's
a weird house.
So
I would say so.
Nobody's contacted us and said, hey, will you walk through this house?
But we absolutely would, though. We were asked to. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've had one friend. She's a realtor. She didn't necessarily. It wasn't a house that somebody was buying. It was one of her friends who already lived there, and she had not really experienced much. But one time she got pushed going into her bathroom, and it literally pushed her out, and it freaked her out. And so she asked me if I would come and investigate her bathroom. So
I don't like the tile.
It was only the bathroom.
Tile's possessed.
What
I don't know.
But it happened a couple of times, but nothing else in the house, just that. And I haven't heard anything since, but I was like, yeah, sure. I'll come do it. But yeah, that's the only thing close to it that I've had.
So fun fact, folks, I've said this before. My regular listeners know this. I almost bought the Amityville house. The original.
Really?
It was for sale a number of years ago, and I happened to see it because I have this thing set up for haunted houses, because I told my wife I want to buy a haunted house, and she's like, will you shut up? We're not. I'm like, no, I'm buying one. I want to buy a haunted house. I've never lived in a haunted house. I don't know what the experience is. I have no clue, but I want to. So it popped up. And so I called over there just for, laughs and whatever, right? So I called over there and I talked to the real estate agent. And the real estate agent, I'll never forget, she goes, oh, sweetie, it's not haunted. Are you a paranormal investigator? Because I'm going to disappoint you. It's not haunted. She goes, I've been selling real estate for over 30 years. I knew the original family who bought that house. I know all about everything. It's totally made up. I'm sorry, but you're going to be disappointed. And I started laughing. She goes, no, I'm totally serious. You think I'm trying to pull one on you? Because she goes, believe me, I want to tell you it's haunted because then I can jack up the price.
Right.
And she goes, but I'm going to be honest. And I'm saying, well, why are people leaving? And she goes, well, here. And she sent me the pictures. And it's a huge house. I mean, you would, I'm not kidding you. You would have to hire a maid to take care of that house because it's huge. It's got a boathouse. It's got, you wouldn't believe how big this house is. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I was like, well, how much, because I still want, and the woman goes, okay, understand this too. The real estate agent says, you're going to have people coming on your yard at like 3 a.m, taking pictures, paranormal investigators calling you left and right. They want to get in your house. And she says, that's why most of the people leave. No one's come to me and said there's a ghost or there's spirits. She goes, I'm sorry. There's no blood on the walls. She goes, trust me, sweetie. It is nothing. And I'm like, damn it. And she goes, and they had to physically change the address because people were coming out there. If you go, it's an insane story. It's nuts.
It is.
And it really is. And it's a gorgeous house. And if you look at the pictures, to me, it doesn't look demonic at all. I look at it and I'm like, that's so beautiful. It's so rustic. And, it's an old house. And it was so funny. Then I told my wife, I joked with my wife. I said, hey, honey, I'm going to get the loan and I'm going to put a down payment on it. And she goes, you do it. We're divorced. Don't even try. I'm kidding. We're not going to do that. But I had this great conversation with the real estate agent. And again, she's like, no. She goes, if you go back to the history of it, the family was in there. They were out of their mind. They were all on drugs. They were all so ties to the mafia. There was all this crazy stuff. Right. And she said, yeah, there's been people in there, mediums, who've said, I feel something. There's pictures of maybe a little boy that supposedly haunted the place. But she's like, I don't want to tell you. She goes, I just don't want to lie to you and think you're going to have this great experience. Yeah. And, it's a lot to take care of. And I was like, but
folklore or whatever. Or
story
kind of blown it out of proportion or whatever.
Yeah. And there's neighbors on each side of you. So you think the neighbors would have been like, and you guys have probably heard this before, where neighbors have said like, oh, you're investigating the Smith house? Oh, I've seen stuff there. I know I've seen stuff there.
Yeah.
No one has ever said nothing,
Right.
Just, but it was really fun. It was a fun experience. I had a great time.
That's really
neat. The real estate agent was super fun. She was super funny. She was great. I loved her. And, I want to get her on my podcast. Hopefully I can. For her to talk about it. But she said, I don't know. She goes, what am I going to say? It's not haunted. It'll be like a 5-minute podcast. She goes, what do you want me to say? I can't, I don't know. She goes, if you want haunted houses, I know some haunted houses. And she kept saying that. She said, I will send you that. If you really want that, I will send you that. Because she knows all about that stuff. Yeah.
That's one of my goals one day is
right? That's awesome.
To own a haunted house like an Airbnb.
Yeah, right?
I would love to do that one day.
So guys, I could talk to you forever. You guys are awesome, like I said. This has been a ton of fun. Tell me what's coming up for you guys. You guys got a big investigation coming up. You got a live stream. What's going on?
Lots of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Because she's really good at
remembering
this stuff. She has to send me like 20 times what we're doing.
All right, Laura, let's hear it.
Okay, so next weekend we have the Hobo Hill House, which is in Jeff City. And that's actually on Airbnb. That one has some unique history. I'm kind of curious to check it out. It's been on the list for a while now.
It's only like, I think 4 blocks from the prison.
From the Missouri
downtown.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And it's got cells in the basement, doesn't it, Laura?
Yes.
It had chains.
Cells?
Yeah.
Something?
There's bars and chains.
There was, some stuff going on in the place. So, after that, we are going to Kentucky. We're going out the group. We're going to collab with them and do a 1792. 1792.
Yeah.
And they've turned that into a wedding venue. And that looks really neat out on a farm out in Kentucky.
Okay.
At the
and that
end
one's never been investigated, right?
No, that one's never been investigated.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll be
Ooh,
there first.
nice.
We'll get in there
So
first.
we don't want to give the name out yet because of their privacy, but
and then at the end of March, we're going to the infirmary, aren't we? The
Fairfield
County Infirmary.
Why?
In Ohio.
Love it.
Let's see. April, we have the Beatty Mansion there in St. Joe. May,
St. Joe, Missouri.
St. Joe, Missouri. Yeah. Another one in May. Where are we going in May?
Malvern
Manor. We rescheduled Malvern. We were supposed to go a couple weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
We're supposed to go January.
Iowa got like 20 some inches of snow and they were closing highways, so we didn't get to make that one.
Oh,
Yes.
and it was minus 30.
Oh,
You know.
Get that.
Yeah.
no way. No.
Yeah, and there's not heat in the whole thing.
No.
There's only a couple of rooms. that have-
No.
We'd have been miserable.
And then at the
Miserable,
beginning of June, we get to go back to the Haunted Castle House with our friend Steve and Judy. And we're gonna-
Probably.
in Brumley. Yeah. So yeah.
And then
Sounds
July,
great.
we have one more in July, which is what do we have in
go
July?
to Iowa. We do the
Train
Horridge House.
Depot.
The Horridge House and Train
Oh,
Depot.
yeah, the Horridge House. Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That
it's very
sounds
exciting.
amazing. And if you guys could do me a favor, can you come back on the show when you've done some of these investigations? I would love to talk to you guys again.
Yeah.
And
We'd
you
love
can
to come
share
on.
your hopefully some crazy, spooky, creepy stories.
Oh,
So
Hopefully.
thank you so much. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to be on my podcast.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to having you guys back on when we do, you guys do some more investigations.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So we end every show 2 ways. One, we say hi to your ghost. Hello, ghost. Because,
Hello, ghost, not in my house.
we're friendly, not in Erin's house.
Not here.
And then we say, stay spooky. So
Stay spooky.
thanks, everyone. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Bye.
Beyond the Shadows podcast.
In the darkest corners of our universe lie spaces where even the light won't go.
Places where terror and the unknown lurk, always waiting.
Join Ryan and Scott on the Beyond the Shadows podcast as we pull back the curtain and peer into the darkness.
We'll examine hauntings, true crimes, mysteries, UFOs, exorcisms, reincarnations, mysteries, and all things dark.
Join us as we go Beyond the Shadows